Hi, welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophia, pilot into the universe of Chinese. Let's continue unpacking well-wishing Chinese, basically New Year well-wishing expressions, but sometimes it's perennial. It's every time you can apply it. When your friend open a new business, move to a new profession or whatever, if you want to wish them, they make a ton of money, make good investment, then you can say this, 一本万利 is about a business that you invest in one and you get a return of 10,000. I mean, is there such a high return of any kind of business? There may be, but they may be illegal. But this is a Chinese way to wish somebody make a ton of money by small investment, but a huge return. And we use 本 and 利 to describe that. 本 basically is a principal, the money you input. And then 利 is the interest you get from it. It's your return. Okay, now we have two numbers. 一, and in this case, by itself, it pronounces 一, and because it's 本, it's the next character, and so habitually Chinese change the tonation from flat to nose diving, drop tone. Becomes 一 本. It doesn't really make sense, right? By the logic of the tonation, if it's a 本, because it's a 本, it starts from relatively high. You should go up, right? But this one is going down. It's just habit. It's one of the telltale signs of foreigner pronouncing Chinese, because people not growing from this land don't have enough training through hearing how other people say it, can hardly just by memorize it when it comes to it, pronounce it exactly right. And just like English, we have a ton of exceptions that you think you're following rule, but there are exceptions, and you don't really know if when you apply the general rule, when you apply exceptions. So this is one of the exceptions, I guess, of the already changing tonation to suit with the depending on the next tone. If it's a third tone, which is the bendy one, you're supposed to go up, but this is exception. This is going down. So 一本万利, anyways, this 一, this originally flat tone without any interference from the second immediate pronunciation. If it's by itself 一, it's just one horizontal line. I mean, how simple is that? That's how Chinese express one, just one horizontal line. And somebody say that signifies universe. Everything starts from one. We have 道德经. I don't exactly know how it's translated, but it's kind of a philosophy about how the kind of Chinese Genesis story. It's everything starts from one. From one comes two. And then 一生二，二生三，三生one, something like that, right? So it's one generated two, two generated three, and then it's 10,000 all of a sudden. But I mean, we know that if we split, it's 1 to 2, 2 to 4, right? Because each one are going to split into two. So anyways, one is an interesting abstraction, because 10,000 is probably ancient lives conceptually the biggest number. So when we wish somebody longevity, we often say 万岁, 10,000 years. And 10,000 in our previous scheme of things, of time, 10,000 is close to infinity. And I mean, nowadays 10K is like a small, tiny number. Back then, 10,000 is like infinity. So when we say 万利, obviously it doesn't mean exact to that number. It's almost like you invest in one and the return is infinity. I guess it's one example like that would be education in the next generation. I mean, Chinese, it's a culture, it's education centric. Next generation, we always want them to have good education. And education is one of those. You invest in one, and the child are going to return. Well, return in the sense of personal growth, right? It's infinity. Okay. Now, how this expressed as 10,000? Story goes, there was a much more complicated expression of that that's depicting the reproductive high efficiency of reproduction by scorpions. And that character looks like a scorpion with a tail, kind of spiky tail coming up. And the scorpions are said to have like 20 to 30 offsprings in one brood. And Chinese use that to mean multiplication in multitudes. It's way more than humans can produce in one brood, right? Like 2, you got twins, 3, max out like that. Like we have limited space over there, right? Then because that character is so complicated, in some occasions we do still keep that. But in other occasions, if you want to simplify it, just to express 10K, just like in English, right? When we write 10K, I mean K, it's kilo. It's already a abbreviation. So we are in the culture, we default on K means 1,000 because it's kilo. But just by expression itself, you see it's just 1, 2, 3 strokes forms this 1,000 concept. And then in English, there's no, like 10,000 is not really a unit. But so therefore you have to say 10,000 or 100,000 because 1,000 is a unit. But you don't have a 10,000, a word that pinned onto 10,000, right? You have to say 10,000. Chinese, however, have this 10,000 concept as one character, capture that. And we can view scorpion story as a multiplication, a process can work. But when people switch a much more simple, it's again 1, 2, 3 strokes, just like a K. I'm comparing cross-culturally of only using 3 strokes to give you this 10,000 K, 10,000 concept. Then this simplification, so far, haven't found a justification of why, except that this used to be say a family name or something else. It means something else, and then was borrowed to mean a number, 10,000. Because otherwise, 10,000, how to express such a huge number to ancient society that's close to infinity? How to express that in a few simple strokes, right? And to me, I like to read it as, okay, this is a ground level, right? And one stroke is kind of like 100, and then you expand to the order of 2 again. So 10 to the 2 to the 2. That's how I memorize this one. Is have 2 curved lines over there that you expansionate it twice. To the order of 2, to the order of 2, and that's 10,000. Okay, doesn't really make much sense, I guess, here. Okay, then we have the tree symbol plus 1 horizontal line. The tree symbol have this upward turning canopy, downward turning root connected by a trunk. And then we have horizontal line intersecting with the tree root portion. And this root symbolizes the foundation, right? Just like a housing, we have the foundation, the tree have the root as a foundation, and then eventually this tree root as a foundation would be extended into all kinds of other things that's kind of essential. In today's world, people talk a lot about first principles, right? It comes down to the foundation of things. And from that, you can kind of do your deduction into derive into other conclusions or observations or explanations to why things happen in a certain way, because you have this sort of foundation. Therefore, you grow that kind of tree, right? Something like that. So in Chinese, it means the root of things. It means the foundation. And in terms of investment, it means the seed money, which is the principal. Okay. And the li originally means sharp, means a tool that's well tuned up, that it's so effective. This knife can cut a lot of crops. So between crops and this root or foundation or principal symbol, you see the same structure. It's a tree structure, right? Connected with that. And then the top is tilted sideways. And that way gives you the sense of crops ripening image. And that becomes, crop to be harvested. And now harvesting, I guess, in a farming society is a critical time, because only you as farmers have very limited short window to harvest the crops from the field to a storage. If you delay the process, things can go bad, can overripe, can be eaten by insects or birds. So harvesting in a time efficient manner is critical. Therefore, the tools, the sickle, or any sharp edge tools that you use to cut the crops are going to be essential. So this is the tool, this is the crop. And to make it sharp is the implied image. So if any metal piece in your household or in your farm work going to be sharp, this is going to be the sharpest of all. Therefore, without drawing the edge, because that's hard to express, you're just drawing the application of edge. So that, if at any moment in the farming year, that's the moment, harvesting time, that you want to use the sharpest tool. And therefore, this image of knife next to a crop, that means sharp. So from this tool being sharp to this tool being useful, being efficient, it goes beyond the tool domain. It becomes something that's useful, something that's beneficial. And from that something that's beneficial extends further in the specific domain of investments. That means something that's benefits. So once you put on your money to invest in something, eventually you get a return, right? And the return simply means something that benefits you eventually. So this extends into investment world as interest, but it came from this harvesting with a sharp tool image. Okay, so that's an 一本万利, that we want to have extreme returns, return on investment. So we talked about how from 1 to infinity, okay? So I translated as extreme because it is really kind of unrealistic expectation, right? But Chinese use that a lot because that's the goal, right? That's the ultimate, most successful type of investment. Every profit-seeking organization or investors are going after. That is, you invest in one, you have an infinite amount of return or extreme large return. Therefore, translated as extreme ROI. So here I'm just getting some images of RMB currency. I think this version is still in use. We have 5, 10, 20, 100. So that's the commonly used currency value. And I guess the 一本万利 simply shows you, I guess, the greed or the oxymize or maximization of the money. Like if you put on your money on something in the 一本万利 context, you would expect an extreme kind of return. Cash into the currency of thinking about one word a day with Sophie. See you another day.